Namaste. Welcome to the third edition of the Global Festival of Oneness organized by the Advaita Academy. We will start with a prayer. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru-Paramparam. We are very pleased to have with us Shanthi Rammohan ji, who is going to share on the topic Shankara as unparalleled devotee. Before we start the session, I'd like to introduce the speaker. A postgraduate in commerce, a Bharatnatyam dancer, Shanthi ji took to the path of Vedanta in 2005 in Los Angeles and went on to study the 2-year resident Vedanta course at Chinmaya, Sandipani, Mumbai. She was then posted for Seva at Chinmaya Mission, Alpharetta, and is currently serving Chinmaya International Foundation since 2014. A sincere seeker, she took to the home study course administration at Chinmaya International Foundation and embarked on full-time sadhana of Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. She has been taking classes. She has been conducting webinar courses on Sanskrit, Foundation Vedanta, Advanced Vedanta, Bhagavad Gita, and Upanishads. Text-based webinar courses conducted by Srimati Shanthi are well received by students of various cultural background across the globe. A passion to communicate the highest knowledge in a simple and lucid manner is her strength. Welcome, Shanthi ji.
Hari Om. Thank you very much. I will first begin the session with the invocatory slokas. Om Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatye Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavadpada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyamta Dehaya Dakshinamurthaye Namaha Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Paramananda Madhavam. My prostrations to that Paramatma who has given me this opportunity to speak to you all through the Advaita Academy, Advaita Indica Forum today. I plan to make a journey into Sri Adi Shankaracharya's life to discern Bhakti was an integral part of his formative life. I will also refer to some of the Bhakti slokas composed by him, wherein he has expressed his supreme devotion without losing the thread of Advaita. This makes it a unique and an unparalleled approach to devotion in its true form. Sri Shankara was born in Kaladi, in a small village Pepatti in Kerala, India, to a Nambudri Brahmin couple, Shivaguru and Aryamba. Shankara's parents had no child for a long time and had prayed at Vadakunathan Vrishachala temple in Thrissur Kerala. Legend has it that Lord Shiva appeared before the devout couple and offered them a choice. A mediocre son who would live a long life, or an extraordinary son who would not live long. The couple chose the latter. The son was named Shankara in honor of Lord Shiva. Shiva Guru died while Shankara was very young. The child showed remarkable scholarship and is said to have mastered the 4 Vedas by the age of 8. The ability to see the dual aspects in the whole and the parts of the entire creation marks every step in Shankaracharya's life. It is not surprising to know that the luminescence shone through Sri Shankara, an incarnate of Lord Shiva himself, even when he was a child. While in Kaladi, his father's home, he was learning Sanskritam, memorizing scriptures, and studying Itihasa and Purana. This way, the boy's mind was drawn to Bhakti Yoga at a very early age. Aryamba had a big hand in this, since as part of bringing up her child, she made temple worship a regular feature in the family's daily life. It was also made clear to Sri Shankara that even then there were divisions in this path shown by Vedas. When they were at Melapalur Mana, which was Aryambal's natal home, or at Kaladi, his father's place, young Shankara could worship Bhagavan Sri Rama and Sri Krishna, Vetakoruvan Shiva temple and Manika Mangalam temple of Mother Goddess. One can almost visualize the little Shankara holding the hand of Aryamba and repeating lines of stotras as they walked to and from the temples. There are 2 instances in Sri Shankara's life which stands as examples for the strength of his devotion to Parameshwara. Following the common practice, Sri Shankara stayed at a teacher's house, that is Gurukula. On one occasion, while begging for alms, brahmacharis, they have to go for bhiksha. And when he was doing that, he came upon a woman with nothing but one dried amalaka fruit, which she offered to him with great devotion. Moved by her piety, he composed the Kanakadara Stotram. On completion of the Stotram, golden amalaka fruits were showered upon the women by the goddess Lakshmi. On another occasion, Sri Shankara was bathing in the river when a crocodile caught him. He asked for his mother's permission to adopt sannyasa, the ascetic life, and when his mother agreed, the crocodile released him. Sri Shankara then left Kerala and traveled throughout India. When he reached the banks of the river Narmada, he met Govinda Bhagavadpada, the disciple of the Advaita Guru-Parampara. The first text on which he wrote a commentary was Vishnu Sahasranamam. This earned him his Guru Sri Govinda Bhagavadpada's discipleship. The success and glory of life of Adi Shankara is sung in one sloka. Ashtavarshe Chaturvedi Dvadashe Sarva Shastravit Shodashi Kritavan Bhashyam Dvatrimshe Munirbhyagat. Meaning, at 8, a master of 4 Vedas, at 12, a professor of all Shastras, at 16, an interpreter and commentator, at 32, a great sage. Simple yet profound is the young English expression which was coined to describe his works. Prasanna Gambiram. Prasannam is lucid and simple. Gambiram is deep like the depth of the ocean. Shankaracharya's bhashyas were all endowed with both Prasannam and Gambiram. Shankaracharya ji established 4 mutts, one at Sringeri, South India in Karnataka, second one at Dwaraka, Western India in Gujarat, the third one at Puri, Eastern India in Orissa, and the fourth at Jyotir Mutt, also known as Joshi Mutt, North India in Uttarakhand. These were the four mutts that he established for the propagation of this knowledge. Later, Adi Shankaracharya traveled to Sharada Peetham, located in now Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. There also he conquered people belonging to different scholastic disciplines like Vedanta, Purva and Purva Mimamsa. Typically, there were two major strands in Shankaracharya's contribution to Sanatana Dharma, and both of them were based on his firm convictions. All of his works reflect this integral personality, where he did not reject the finite, that is Saguna Ishvara, for the infinite Nirguna Brahma. This is called a holistic view. Typically, this is not possible for the ordinary sense-ridden mind. They can only manage to hold on to some compartmentalized segments of reality while considering it to be a complete view. Whereas the liberated person reveling in that ananda would not be available for finite experiences. Shankaracharya decided to integrate the sixth form of deity worship into one homogeneous approach to Saguna Ishvara Upasana and called them as Shanmatam. For this, he focused on the six principal or predominant deities of worship. Ganapati, worship of Lord Ganesha; Kaumaram, worship of Lord Kumara or Kartikeya; Sauram, the worship of the sun god; Shaktam, the worship of goddess Shakti; Shaivam, the worship of Lord Shiva; and Vaishnavam, the worship of Lord Vishnu. There are innumerable stotras in circulation that are composed by Shankaracharya. He achieved this by traveling widely all over the country, debating with the heads of each of these cults, accepting their beliefs, and at the same time aligning their thoughts with the ancient Vedic treatises and streamlining the expression of their bhakti in the form of a more inclusive mode of worship. Not only were the heads of these cults convinced by Shankaracharya's arguments, some of them also ended up as his disciples. Shankara Bhagavadpada taught us the truth that all deities whom we hereditarily worship are nothing but the manifestations of the Supreme Self, Paramatman. Thus, he established the worship of Shiva, Vishnu, Ganapati, Shakti, Surya, and Kartikeya. These are all sanctified by the Vedas. Each deity has a specific Gayatri mantra which connects that deity also with the supreme truth. It is due to Shankaracharya ji and his prayers and compositions on the deities of various temples across India that the temple worship and festivals associated with the temples saw a great revival in a holistic manner. First, let us visit the sloka on Sri Vinayaka, composed by Sri Shankaracharya. In that sloka, we'll find that while what is sought is the blessings from Lord Vinayaka, what is implied is an assertion that he is the embodiment of that absolute bliss ananda, which is compared to the sweet held in his hand. Further, moksha being the ultimate focus of human birth is outlined as that which is gained by the grace of Vinayaka. Mudakaratha modakam sada vimukti sadakam kaladharavatam sakam vilasi loka rakshakam anayakaikanayakam vinashi deva daityakam nadasubhasu nashakam namamitam vinayakam. Salutations to Sri Vinayaka, who holds the divine joy in his hand as modaka, that is a sweet. He is ever the means to liberation, that is moksha. He wears as an ornament the digit moon on his forehead. He is the protector of those who sport in the mirthful life of worldly pleasures. He is the lordless, unique Lord. He destroyed the elephant demon, and he destroys quickly the evil sufferings or inauspicious happenings of those who bow to him. Adi Shankara poured out profound verses such as these again and again that carry the mark of his genius in the comprehensive understanding of that supreme Brahman and a simultaneously steadfast devotion to Saguna Brahman. It is a true tribute for his wisdom and the tireless efforts to raise human consciousness that these stotras are still alive in people's hearts and minds even after more than 1,000 years. Sri Shankara, with his knowledge as his companion, was able to command the emotion of intellectuals as well as the masses. He was able to gather the scattered people and raised their spiritual and cultural energies by revolutionizing their philosophical thinking. Shankara Bhagavadpada traveled extensively while writing commentaries on the Upanishads, Vishnu Sahasranama, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Brahma Sutra. On his way to the Vishwanatha temple in Kashi, he came upon an untouchable and his dog. When asked to move aside by Shankara's disciples, the untouchable asked, "Do you wish that I move my soul, the Atman that is everlasting, or this body made of clay?" Seeing the untouchable as none other than the Lord Shiva, Shankara prostrated before Ishvara, composing 5 slokas famously known as Manisha Panchakam. Thus, Sri Shankaracharya's life reveals that Bhakti and Jnana Samuchaya was possible. The only thing he affirmed was that Jnana and Karma cannot go together, which was the belief of Purva Mimamsakas. Even after gaining liberation and Brahmanishta, Shankaracharya continued expressing his bhakti towards Ishvara in the form of one devata or the other. After attaining the Sarvagnya Pita in Kashmir, he traveled to Gokarna temple, then to Mookambika temple at Kollur, Karnataka, and finally to Sringeri in Karnataka. At Sringeri, he established Sharada Peetam and the Mutt. Shankaracharya's great devotion for Mother Sharada Devi is seen in his composition Sharada Bhujanga Prayatashtakam. This hymn of Shankaracharya is inlaid with deep significance while totally it is mellifluous. Nature, high philosophy, and man's unshakable faith in a benevolent divine are all gathered together in a single knot in this prayer. Reference to Jnana Mudra in the Stotra indicates that knowledge is the ultimate blessing of the goddess. Her form and name keep one's mind focused towards the pursuit of this blessing of hers to gain the knowledge that liberates. Katakshe Dayadram Kare Jnana Mudram Kalabhir Vinidram Kalapai Subhadram Purastrim Vinidram Purastunga Bhadram Bhaje Sharadambam Majasram Madambam. Salutations to Mother Sharada, whose glance is moist with compassion and whose hand shows the Jnana Mudra gesture of knowledge, who is ever wakeful by her arts, which she showers on her devotees, who looks ever auspicious by her ornaments, which she is adorned with, who is the ever-awake mother goddess of the town of Sringeri, the blessed town by the banks of river Tunga, which is ever auspicious by her presence. I worship Mother Sharada, who is my eternal mother. We find here that there is unparalleled beauty in the images formed through appropriate choice of Sanskrit words, which are further decorated by the poetic rendering of the stotra. They all are developed to confer both Bhakti and Jnana at the same time by the poet-author Sri Shankara. This brings about simultaneously joy and enlightenment in the mind of readers and seekers. Let us see a very popular sloka from Shivananda Lahari. Ankolam nijabija santatihi ayaskantopalam suchika sadvi naija vibhum lata chitiruham sindhu sarid vallavam prapnoti yata tata pashupate padara vindadvayam cheto vritti rupetya tishtati sada sa bhaktir ityuchyate. So that state of mind is called Bhakti, wherein all movements of thought go automatically to the lotus feet of the Lord and stick to them forever, just as the seed of the Ankola tree on falling gravitates to the parent tree, then the iron needle to the magnetic stone, like the devoted wife to her husband, the creeper to the tree, and the river to the ocean. This 61st sloka of Shivananda Lahari describes the gradual ascendance of the state of devotion by giving impressive examples. While the path of Bhakti allows for diversity in its practice, the ultimate goal is the one supreme homogeneous truth. This is brought out here. At once the means and goal are called out poetically. We find in Sri Vishnu Shatpadi Sloka, Shankaracharya's Samana Artha equality in his devotion for Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, which is brought out here. In this context, I have to mention that the term Smartha is coined to refer the practice of worshipping the six deities on equal footing. Avinayama Panaya Vishnu, Damaya Manashamaya Vishaya Mriga Trishna, Bhutadayam Vistaraya, Taraya Samsara Sagarataha. O Lord Vishnu, drive away my immodesty, quell my mind and dispel the mirage of objects of worldly pleasures. Spread out compassion in me for all beings. Make me cross the ocean of worldly existence to the shore, namely moksha. In Uma Maheshwara Stotram, Shankaracharya ji says, Namah Shivabhyam Navayauvanabhyam Parasparaslishtavapurdharabhyam Nagendra Kanya Vrishaketanabhyam Namo Namah Shankara Parvatibhyam. Salutations to Lord Shiva and his consort, who are always in fresh stage of youth, who cling to each other in tight embrace, of whom one is the daughter of the mountain and the other is one whose symbol is a bull. Salutations and salutations to Lord Shankara and to that goddess Parvati. The important word here is that parasparaslishtha vapurdharabhyam. This sloka brings out the concept of Advaita, that Ishvara and the power of Maya are always seen together and are one. But because of the upadhi through which they express, they appear differently. Then again in Annapurnashtakam, Sri Shankaracharya ji blends Jnana and Bhakti by using a term Nityanandakari. That is, one who can take us to that absolute reality of Satchidananda Brahman or Satchidananda Atma. Nityanandakari, Varabhayakari, Saundarya Ratnakari, Nirduta Kila Gora Pavanakari, Pratyaksha Maheshwari, Praleya Chala Vamsha Pavanakari, Kashi Puradishwari, Bhikshan Dehi Kripavalambanakari, Mata Annapurneshwari. O Mother Annapurna, renderer of the support of compassion, the bestower of eternal happiness, the donor of gifts and protection, the ocean of beauty, the destroyer of all sins and purifier, the great goddess, the purifier of the family of Himavan, and the great deity of Kashi, please grant us alms. There is one stotra which brings out both the poetic greatness and language prowess of Adi Shankara, that is Mahishasuramardini sloka, in which the Advaitic message of how Mahisha, a demon representing the ego, which has blinded one's sense of what is right and wrong, could be overcome only by the grace of Maya Shakti in its sattvic nature, expressing through rajasic external appearance. This quells the tamasic misunderstanding of the real nature of one's self. This is clearly brought out in this sloka. That is, it's a very famous one, and this sloka is a household favorite among many women in India. Aigiri Nandini Nandita Medini Vishwa Vinodini Nandinute Girivara Vindya Shirodini Vasini Vishnu Vilasini Jishnunute Bhagavati Heshiti Kanta Kudumbini Bhuri Kudumbini Bhuri Krute Jaya Jaya Ye Mahishasuramardini Ramyaka Pardini Shaila Sute. Some of the hymns are quite simple, like Shiva Panchakshari Stotram, like, the Nagendra Haraya Trilochanaya Vasmanga Ragaya Maheshwaraya Nityaya Shuddhaya Digambaraya Tasmai Nakaraya Namah Shivaya, or the Lingashtakam. Brahma Murari Surarchita Lingam Nirmala Basita Shobhita Lingam Janma Jadukka Vinashaka Lingam Tat Pranamami Sadashiva Lingam. Lingam in Sanskrit means a pointer or an indicator. Here, Lord Sadashiva stands as the pointer to that supreme truth. Some of the hymns are not that simple. For example, we have the Dakshinamurthy Stotram. Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam Pashyannatmani Mayaya Bhagari Vodbhutam Yata Nidraya Yes Sakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Swatmaname Vadvayam Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Namayidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye. In this sloka, Shri Shankara beautifully points out that Brahman alone is Satyam, and all that is seen, that is the Jagat, is a mere illusion. It is this Saguna Dakshinamurti who reveals his Nirguna Advaya nature to the devotee who yearns for it. Thus, Shankaracharya ji's hymns are meant for either initial bhakti, or it could also take us to the final stage of bhakti known as Ananya Bhakti, as explained in Narada Bhakti Sutram. The later stage is gained, that is, this Ananya Bhakti is gained by contemplating on the implied reference to the absolute that pervades the illusory world of names and forms. In Saundarya Lahari, Bhagavadpada brings out the wonderful observation that Brahman the Brahman is that supreme truth, the supreme reality, in association with the power of Maya is Shiva, and in his presence, Sannidhi Matrena, the entire creation is projected on him. Without this power expressing, creation cannot be explained. Shiva Shaktya Yukta Yadi Bhavati Shaktaha Prabhavitum Na Chedevam Devaha Nakalu Kushala Spanditumapi Atastwamaradyam Harihara Virinjadi Virapi Pranantum Stotum Va Katamakrita Punya Prabhavati. Lord Shiva only becomes able to do creation in this world along with that Shakti. Without her, even an inch he cannot move. And so how can one who does not do good deeds or one who does not sing your praise become adequate to worship you? O Goddess, you are one who is worshipped by the Trinity. In addition, Sri Shankaracharya ji has composed more beautiful chants on the Hindu gods and goddesses that remain repeated and sung today, probably more than any other saint poet. These include chants to Shiva, Devi, Lord Vishnu, Goddess Lakshmi, Saraswati, Sri Rama, Sri Krishna, and Bhagavan Ganesha. In these hymns, he shows that he has mastered all the intricacies of Bhakti Yoga or the Yoga of devotion and was not a mere dry philosopher. Even while contemplating and composing his ground-breaking commentaries on the Prasthana Trayi, that is Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and Brahma Sutra, Shankaracharya ji would time and again come down from the highest pedestal of Advaita to Saguna Upasana and give out a rich heritage of stotras or hymns composed on different aspects of the divine. His contribution to stotra literature in Sanskritam is unique. These hymns have captivated the hearts of Hindus by their devotional fervor, poetic beauty, and philosophical content. Even today, millions of Hindus throughout the length and breadth of the country daily recite some of these beautiful hymns. Shankaracharya's personality as a poet, as a philosopher, and above all as a great devotee clearly comes through in these compositions. In the spiritual evolution of the individual, Saguna Upasana has an important place. Worshipping the divine by singing hymns in his praise is an essential part of this Upasana. Sri Shankaracharya's Ananda Lahari opens with this verse: Bhavani stotum tvam prabhavati chaturbirna vadanaihi prajanam ishanah tripura matana panchabirapi na shadbhi senani dashashatamukaihi apyahi patihi tadan yesham kesham kataye katam asmin avasarah. O Bhavani, even Brahma with his 4 faces, Shiva with his 5 faces, Shanmukha with his 6 faces, and Adi Shesha with his 1,000 faces are unable to sing your praise adequately. How then can anyone else with no punya to his credit sing your praises? This indicates that worshipping the absolute essence of these deities is a very difficult task, which can be made possible by only the blessing of this mother, Bhavani. This is a reference to the sattvic nature of Maya, which paves way for Jnana to take root and give us a means to realize that absolute self. In Devi Bhujanga Stotram, Sri Shankara expresses his earnings in the following verse. Kadava rishikani samyam bhajeyuhu, kadava nashatrur namitram bhavani, kadava durasha vishuchi vilopaha, kadava manos mem samulam vinashyet. O Bhavani, when all my senses receive pleasure and pain with equanimity, when will that happen? When shall I be without friends and foes? This is that is regarding friend or foe alike. When will the greed of mine vanish? When will this mind of mine be destroyed from its very roots? Here, Sri Shankara has given expression to the yearnings of a true devotee who wants to transcend the world of pairs of opposites and become one with the Divine Mother. During his last days, Shankaracharya ji composed the following verse. We know this Bhaja Govindam is a very famous composition of Shankaracharya ji, but there is one additional sloka where he says, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudamate, Namasmaran Adanyam Upayam Nahi Pashyamo Bhavatarane. Worship Govinda, worship Govinda, worship Govinda, O fool. Other than chanting the Lord's names, there is no other way to cross the ocean of life. This is strange that someone whose philosophy is based on formless Brahman, how can he compose such deep verses on Govinda, Krishna, or Jagannatha? The person who thinks absolute is formless normally wouldn't have any faith or inclination towards any deity, let alone the supreme personality of Godhead like Shri Krishna or Govinda or Jagannatha. Here we see Shankaracharya ji's composition Jagannatha Ashtakam soaked in total devotion for the Lord. Kadachit kalindi tatavipina sangeeta taralo mudabhiri nari vadana kamala swadha madupaha Rama Shambhu Brahma Marapati Ganesha Chitapado Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatume. Sometimes in great happiness, Lord Jagannatha with his flute makes a loud concert in the grooves on the banks of the Yamuna. He is like a bumblebee who tastes the beautiful lotus-like faces of the cowherd damsels of Braja, and his lotus feet are worshipped by Lakshmi, Shiva, Brahma, Indra, and Ganesha. May that Lord Jagannatha be the object of my vision. This is how Shankaracharya ji expresses his devotion for Lord Jagannatha. The fact is, Lord Shiva couldn't hide his devotional heart, even in the form of Shankaracharya, and composed the following verses, which clearly shows his devotional heart and gives a clear message. The ultimate epitome of the culmination of spiritual practice and philosophy is continuing devotional service unto the Lord. Even though considered an incarnation of Dakshinamurthy, Sri Shankaracharya remained a lifelong devotee of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. For instance, his later work, which is Prabodha Sudhakara, lovingly brings out the inner significance of Shri Krishna's incarnation. Mandara Pushpa Vasita Manda Anila Sevitam Paranandam Mandakini Yutapadam Namata Mahanandadam Mahapurusham. Meaning of this is that bow to the Supreme Person Krishna, the giver of great bliss, who himself is of the nature of the highest bliss, who is served by the gentle breeze made fragrant by Mandara flowers, and whose feet are attended by the celestial river Mandakini. Among the most popular of Sri Shankara's stotras, the Sri Lakshmi Narasimha Karavalamba Stotra has been recited with devotion for centuries and has been efficacious in overcoming fear of all kind. In this, Sri Shankara uses several similes for comparing earthly life to an immense forest, a vast ocean, a discarded well, a huge tree, a poisonous snake, a forest fire, and a net. He prays to Lakshmi Narasimha to save him from all such evils. Once attachment to earthly existence is removed, liberation follows as a matter of course. Who can save the jiva caught up in samsara except the Lord himself, says Shankaracharya ji. Samsara sarpaghana vakra bhayogra tivra damsha karala vishadagda vinashtamurte Nagari Vahana Sudabdi Nivasa Shaure Lakshmi Nrisimha Mamadehi Karavalambam. O great God, Lakshmi Nrisimha, O Lord, who rides in the enemy of snakes, Garuda, O Lord, who lives in the ocean of nectar, the serpent of family life has opened. Its fearful mouth with every dangerous fangs filled with terrible venom, which has destroyed me, and so please give me the protection of your hands. Shankaracharya ji taught people to worship beauty itself in the image of Mother Goddess. Each one of his Devi Stotras thus creates and recreates images of benign beauty that ultimately settles down in the devotee's heart as a love for this sattvika way of life to gain the first step of attaining liberation in the path of devotion. The stotras help the mind to enclose itself into the beauty and the power of the divine. In Advaitic, liberation is the Ananda of the divine. Then the Mother Supreme becomes the image of that Ananda. Seen thus, image worship becomes the Ashtanga Yoga that is helping with the steps in meditation. Sri Shankara says in the hymn Gauri Dashakam, Pratyahara Dhyana Samadhi Sthiti Bhajam Nityam Chitte Nivritti Kashtam Kalayanti Satya Jnananand Mayim Tam Tanu Rupam Gaurim Ambam Amburuhakshim Aham Mide. I adore Gauri, the Divine Mother, with lotus-like eyes. She generates supreme bliss forever in the minds of those who have attained the state of Samadhi after passing through the state of Pratyahara and Dhyana. Her real nature is truth consciousness bliss. Yet she takes the form of Gauri to help the devotees. Here, there is a reference to Samadhi Abhyasa with the help of a sattvic mind, which has become eligible to seek the truth by its immense devotion to Devi. It is very characteristic of Shankaracharya to synthesize the two seeming opposites, the form and the formless. One can only gaze with wonder at the deep understanding of the human psyche with that Shankara was capable of when he outlined such complex principle through simple means. He who had found the world itself an illusory superimposition came down to the level of the common man and helped him pursue the path of devotion. This alone would prepare the devotees to take up the path of knowledge that would bring the wisdom of Advaitic experience. For those who still remain in Dvaita Bhava, his composition became pure Bhakti Yoga. He helped such aspirants with many hymns. One such remarkable hymn is the Matrika Pushpamala Stuti about Goddess Akhilandeshwari. The Universal Mother takes the cosmic form to help us walk the path of yoga to attain liberation. After decorating the goddess Akhilandeshwari with the Sri Chakra ear ornaments, Shankaracharya ji installed the image of Ganapati facing her so that her maternal heart would ever be active towards the devotees who came to her seeking for grace. Some people may have this question. Was Sri Shankaracharya against Agama Shastra? No. If we examine his Matrika Pushpamala Stuti, Sri Shankara uses the first 16 verses to describe the Shodasha Upacharas, 16 offerings. I could do this in sheer meditation or do it all with visible objects. That is, we could take up the Manasika Upasana and do Manasika Upasana is meditation only. Or we can do it as visible with visible objects means, or I can do it with the puja in the puja form with the samagris, with the various samagris. Through this hymn, he began structuring the methodology of worship. He only merges the final goal of human birth, namely moksha, in the upasana portion of karma kanda, thus linking upasana to liberation through jnana. With Shankara's advent, the worship of Mother Goddess assumed grand proportions. The Puranic accounts of Shakti Pitas were transformed into significant temples and a splendid stotra literature was born. That Sri Shankaracharya was vividly aware of the surroundings and not lost into a state of trance is brought out in his composition the Kashi Panchakam. In 5 verses on Kashi, he brings out the beauty and greatness of this city. Several stotras of Shankaracharya ji belongs to the 2 periods of his stay in Benares. Gangashtakam is one of them and is a poem to Mother Nature. It is thought-provoking that Sri Shankara always brings together Vishnu and Shiva in these stotras in some context or the other. Here, I would like to mention that Shankaracharya ji has also written beautiful stotras on holy rivers like Yamuna and Narmada. Shankaracharya, by his sheer personality, a practical bent of mind, and mastery of the Vedic culture, he persuaded those who had gone astray through meaningless ritualism to return to performing the same Vedic karma with an understanding of its short-term and long-term goals, namely Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman, respectively. Thus, he taught the people the Sri Vidya Upasana, which paves the way to ultimate realization of Brahman, the supreme reality. Among the many shrines that received the timely and divine help of Shankaracharya, the Tiruchendur temple dedicated to Subramanya is one. Shankaracharya composed the Subramanya Bhujangam on this temple deity. Mayuradirudam Mahavakya Gudam Manohari Deham Machittageham Mahideva Devam Mahaveda Bhavam Mahadeva Bhalam Bhajelo Kapalam. Lord is the goal of Vedas. I sing the praise of that protector of the world who rides on a peacock, Mayuradi Rudam, that is, who rides on a peacock, who is the meaning, essence of great Vedic sayings, Mahavakyas, who has a very pretty form, Manoharadi Deham, who resides in the minds of great ones, Mahachitta Geham, who is the God of all gods, Mahideva Devam, who is the purport of Vedas, Mahaveda Bhavam, and who is the great son of Lord Shiva, Mahadeva Bhalam. Here a term is used, Mahavakya Gudam, meaning the implied hidden meaning of the Mahavakyas in the Upanishads. This is again reference to the same Saguna Brahman, which becomes a vehicle to reach the Nirguna Brahman. Today, we all have got a glimpse of the unparalleled expression of devotion by the proponent of Advaita, that is Sri Adi Shankaracharya, towards Saguna Brahman. All of mankind have benefited irrespective of the stage or state of one's starting point in the quest for self-knowledge by taking resort to his Ananya Bhakti Marga. This makes him the Jagadguru. He is the Sri Sadguru, who is thus reverentially worshipped by one and all seekers of the true self. Before I conclude, I would like to say that this is only an humble effort on my part to show the unparalleled devotion of Sri Shankaracharya, the greatest Advaita Guru. There are innumerable hymns which are soaked in his devotion. I have only cited a few of his compositions to bring out the supreme devotion of Sri Shankara.
Thank you so much, Shanti ji, for taking us through the world of devotion of Shankara, who very effortlessly and seamlessly blend the Saguna Upasana and the Nirguna Tattvam in his prayers. And you gave beautiful examples of the Matrika Pushpamala, the Annapurna Stotra, where he refers to the goddess as Nityanandakari. Each word was very enriching and gave us both the Bhakti Bhavana and the Jnana Nishtha also. So let me see if there are any questions there. Of course, there's a lot of praise for your exposition, saying that it's very good and you have given a lot of good explanation for this. Okay, there's one question, and then of course there's just a comment from Srinivas Rao Chi, who says that we should not use the word cult for our Shanmata, we should just, because
no, at that time, what I was trying to mention is at that time they were doing that. So he had to bring in them in this fold of Shanmatam, where we have that, devotion to one God in the form of these 6 deities.
In Shanmata, has Shankara composed any verses on Surya Bhagavan? Are there any verses on Surya Bhagavan?
I also had this question, and I was trying to get one because I tried to bring all the deities which are included in the Shanmata. But then I didn't find Surya. I think Surya, the Gayatri itself, is the most important Surya Upasana. I think I should do more research, I think, on that, because I couldn't find. I tried my best to find out if there is any sloka on Surya Bhagavan specifically, but then I could not, so far I could not find one, but I think I should go deeper and deeper. This is only a tip of the iceberg. Like I said, I had given only few examples. There are hundreds of slokas. If you take Ashtakams, there are so many Ashtakams. So like that, he has given innumerable slokas, hymns. Those who have devotion for a particular God, they can, take not just one sloka, they can take so many stotras from Shankaracharya's composition to express their devotion to that Ishta Devata. But then I think Surya Bhagavan, I have to do more research into it. Yeah.
Is there any particular order in which we should learn these stotras, or they are just based on a Ishta Devata that we learn it? What is the way in which a person who doesn't know any shlokas, is there any particular order in which they should learn these stotras?
First thing, as a Sanskrit teacher, I would say they should know Sanskritam. Otherwise, I always keep repeating, the pronunciation is very important in Sanskritam. Even if a slight deviation is there, the meaning itself changes. Sometimes it brings out negative meaning, whereas it should have a positive meaning. So that way, Sanskritam is better to learn the alphabets and, the basic Sanskritam. I'm not telling we should become a scholar in that. For devotion, that is not absolutely necessary. But then Sanskritam knowledge, basic Sanskritam knowledge is required. And then we can start with these Ashtakams, even Pancharatna, 5 slokas. With these we can start. Even one is more than enough. Even in that 5 slokas, it is not necessary we should learn all the 5 and then memorize it. Even one of them is enough, because the essence of devotion comes out in each sloka. So that is the bhava which is more important when we are showing our devotion to Bhagavan. So for that bhava, is it even nama smarana? Bhagavan Shankaracharya himself has told that. Bhaja Govindam, in that, he has said nama smarana. Even that to start with, then gradually we can pick up one sloka from each of the hymns that he has composed, and then gradually make it a point to learn the whole stotra, because all of them are beautiful, and it brings out the devotion in our heart.
I just want to announce for our viewers that Shanti ji also holds shloka chanting sessions, and if anyone is interested, they can write into her and show their interest if they want to learn.
Just one other additional information there regarding chanting. I teach the Vedic Suktams also. The Suktams, it has got intonations. There is a particular way of chanting. Pronunciation and the intonation are the 2 important aspects that we have to focus when we come to the Sukta chanting. As I told you, this Sanskritam is very essential when it comes to Vedic chanting, because it says if the pronunciation is not correct, then it will incur sin for both the teacher and the student. So that way, I keep telling people that they should know Sanskritam specifically for Vedic chanting. Slokas, it is okay if they have the, mindset to learn the slokas. That yearning is there to learn slokas, that is more than enough.
Ma'am, if we could just, I think some of them want to know what is your email and how to contact you. So if there's an email that you can share on the chat, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I will definitely share the email ID in the chat.
Ma'am, we will share in your email ID in the chat. No.
Okay, that would be great. Or I can do it here, just quickly I can.
Okay, it's there. Ma'am, they've already shared it.
Shared. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, there's one more question which I wanted to ask is, most of us currently, most of this devotional stotra literature is written by Shankara. I was just curious to know, pre-Shankara, what was the devotional literature like that, like stotras? What was the source for devotional literature in pre-Shankara times?
In pre-Shankara time, we had the Bhagavatam, Vyasa Acharyas, the Bhagavata slokas are there, Ramayanam is there. All these have been even before Shankara's period, right?
What I meant was the shorter stotra literature.
The stotras from Ramayana, we have taken many stotras, but short ones. We have borrowed from Bhagavatam also. We have many short stotras like Satchidananda Rupaya Vishwotpatyadi Hetave, Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Namaha. We chant. That's only two-liner, and that is from Bhagavatam.
Okay, so our Bhagavatam and the Itihasas and the Puranas do have this stotra literature.
Yeah, on Devi we have the Devi Bhagavatam. See, Vyasa Acharya has given everything before that, and whatever Shankaracharya has done reflects also what Vyasa Acharya has given us.
Thank you so much. So thank you again, Shanti ji, for this wonderful session where you explained to us the blend of both bhakti and jnana through the stotra literature of Shankara. And hopefully it encourages us also to take up the stotra chanting as well as understanding, as you said, in the form of meditation and knowledge. Thank you very much for sharing.
Can I conclude, with your permission, can I conclude with the Shanti mantra?
Please go ahead.
Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om.
Viewers, we have many more sessions to come. Tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. India time, we have the penultimate session of the Prashnottara Ratna Malike, which is being explained to us by Neema Majmudar. So please log in at 7 a.m. India time. Thank you very much and good night.